Hello, my name is Hans Hanley, and I will be presenting the work, A Golden Age, Conspiracy Theory's Relationship with Misinformation Outlets, News Media, and the Wider Internet. This work was done in conjunction with Deepak Kumar and Professor Sakir Duremarich at Stanford University. I will begin with a quote from Richard Hofstadter from his now famous 1964 essay about conspiratorial thinking in the United States. But if for every error and every act of incompetence one can substitute an act of treason, many points of fascinating interpretation are open to the paranoid imagination. This is to say that conspiratorial thinking in the United States is not a new phenomenon. Rather, conspiracy theories have spread and been influential in the United States for a long time. These have ranged from fringe theories about Freemasons in the 18th century to JFK conspiracy theories in the 1960s and 1970s. However, even though conspiracy theories have existed and spread throughout U.S. history, recently, primarily due to the internet, conspiracy theories have been able to gain new adherents at a breakneck pace. Some of these adherents, convinced of these conspiracy theories, have spread fear about vaccines, committed violent acts, or even stormed the U.S. Capitol. The seeming prevalence of conspiracy theories as they have continued to affect daily life has led many to ask the questions: do we live in a golden age of conspiracy theories? And what role have different news websites had in spreading and promoting these different conspiracy theories? In this work, using hyperlink analysis of thousands of websites across over a decade, we seek to answer these questions and to understand the role that news organizations may have had in mainstreaming conspiracy theories. Specifically, we document the interconnecting hyperlinks between 530 misinformation news websites, 565 authentic news websites, 528 non-news websites, and finally, 755 websites that are dedicated to 5 different conspiracy theories, namely QAnon, 9/11, COVID, Flat Earth, and UFO/aliens. This process allows us to understand the relative rates at which different website groups have hyperlinked to websites dedicated to each of our 5 different conspiracy theories. We then use Amazon Alexa ranking to estimate the popularity of each of these groups of websites, most importantly the conspiracy theories, over time. Then, in order to understand the role of news websites in potentially promoting different conspiracy theories, we, utilizing partial Granger causality, estimate the relationship between different news websites' behavior and the online popularity of each group of conspiracy theory websites. Before we go into some of our methodology and results, I will give a brief overview of some of our definitions, namely what we mean when we refer to authentic news, misinformation, conspiracy theories, and non-news websites. We label news websites that generally adhere to journalistic norms, including attributing authors and correcting errors, altogether publishing mostly true information, as authentic news websites. This includes websites such as CNN, The Wall Street Journal, and The New York Times. We curated our list of authentic news outlets from lists of news websites validated by other researchers and fact-checkers, including Open Sources, PolitiFact, and Snopes. We label news websites that often publish false information and that do not engage in journalistic norms, such as attributing authors and correcting errors, as misinformation news websites. We note that while we label these websites as unreliable or as misinformation news websites, this does not necessarily mean that all the news stories that they publish are false. We curated our list of misinformation websites from lists of news websites validated by other researchers and fact-checkers, including Open Sources, PolitiFact, and Snopes. Our list of misinformation news websites includes such sources as Breitbart, InfoWars, and Zero Hedge. One of our most important distinctions: we consider conspiracy theory websites, a type of misinformation, to be those that are dedicated to 5 different conspiracy theory topics, namely those about QAnon, UFOs, COVID, 9/11, and Flat Earth. For example, one of our conspiracy theory websites dedicated to COVID uses the domain name covidisfake.blogspot.com, while another one of our websites dedicated to QAnon uses the domain name qanon.map. Altogether, using a series of website scrapes and graph analysis that we outline in our paper, we identified 227 QAnon dedicated websites, 193 UFO/alien dedicated websites, 134 COVID websites, 104 9/11 websites, and 97 Flat Earth websites. Finally, as a control within our paper, we utilize a set of 528 non-news websites. We select these websites from non-news categories listed by the company Semantic Web, picking, for example, from the categories of food and drink, heavy industry, and businesses and services. Once we had compiled all of our different types of domains, in order to understand how they hyperlinked with one another, we subsequently gathered all the index HTML for each of these websites from Common Crawl. Once gathered, we further augmented this dataset of HTML with data from our own website crawls that we conducted between June and October 2021. From each HTML page we gathered, we subsequently extracted the hyperlinks, the publication date, and organized the data by website category and by domain. Having described our methodology, I will now describe some of our high-level results. We begin by first understanding the current state of the use of conspiracy theory websites by news media and the wider internet. Across each of our website groups, we determine the percentage of each group's hyperlinked domains that is shared by another category of website. For example, take our group of QAnon websites and our set of misinformation websites. If, for instance, our set of QAnon websites hyperlinked to a total of 3 different domains, while our set of misinformation websites hyperlinked to a set of 4, if there was a 2-domain overlap, we would say that 66% of our set of QAnon websites externally connected domains were also hyperlinked by misinformation websites. Conversely, we would also say that 50% of our misinformation websites' externally connected domains are also hyperlinked by QAnon websites. This metric helps us understand the degree to which different website groups utilize the same materials or sources in their reporting or online discussions. Looking at our real data, we see that 61.9% of the websites that QAnon domains hyperlink to are also hyperlinked by misinformation websites, 51.1% for authentic news websites, and 34.5% for non-news websites. In comparison, only a small amount of our misinformation, authentic news, and non-news external hyperlinked domains are also hyperlinked by QAnon domains, with misinformation websites having the highest and non-news websites having the lowest. Across all of our conspiracy theory website groups, unsurprisingly, we find larger interconnections with misinformation websites. In turn, misinformation websites also hyperlink to a larger percentage of the same websites that our conspiracy theory websites utilize, compared to authentic news websites or non-news websites. Upon further examination and looking at which particular conspiracy theory websites are hyperlinked, we find that misinformation websites, unsurprisingly, hyperlink to conspiracy theory websites at a much higher rate than authentic news websites. And we further find that QAnon and 9/11 websites are some of the most commonly hyperlinked. Utilizing Common Crawl network data extracted from Common Crawl index pages, which includes 87.7 million websites, we determine the network centrality of our set of conspiracy-focused websites to understand if each conspiracy theory website category is core, meaning that they are regularly hyperlinked on the internet, or peripheral, meaning that they are rarely hyperlinked on the internet. Applying the harmonic centrality of each website group, we indeed find that several conspiracy theory websites are core to the internet, even more so than some of our authentic misinformation and non-news websites. This result in particular shows that many conspiracy theory websites are central and seemingly mainstream compared to much of the index internet. Having statically documented the role of conspiracy theories, we next sought to determine if the use of our set of conspiracy theories and the overall popularity of these websites had increased over time. We plot the median Amazon Alexa popularity rank for our set of website groups over time in this graph. We note the large increase in the median popularity of all of our conspiracy theory website categories around August 2019. While we cannot show definitive causality, we note that this coincides with the El Paso, Texas, and the Dayton, Ohio mass shootings that took place on August 3rd and August 4th, respectively. In both cases, the shooters posted manifestos on the QAnon-associated website 8chan.net. Plotting the overall number of URLs to each of our website groups from our set of misinformation websites, we further observe a similar trend, with the number of hyperlinks to our set of QAnon conspiracy theory websites increasing substantially in 2018, and the hyperlinks to our set of COVID conspiracy theory websites also substantially increasing in 2020 and 2021. To extend our measurements of conspiracy theory-related materials beyond our set of conspiracy theory websites, we further examine the rate at which misinformation and authentic news websites hyperlink to conspiracy theory-oriented websites. We define conspiracy theory-oriented websites as websites that have more domain connections from conspiracy theory websites than from authentic news websites and non-news websites. This is such that a majority of a site's inward links in a domain-based graph are from conspiracy theory websites. For example, if a given website had hyperlink connections from 10 different conspiracy theory websites, but only one connection from a singular authentic news website, we would label this website as being conspiracy-oriented. We identify 116,000 domains that conform to this definition. Examining the raw percentage of misinformation and authentic news hyperlinks that were to our set of conspiracy-oriented websites, across our set of misinformation websites, we observe a steady increase over time. Specifically, we observe the percentage go from 13.2% in 2021 from a low of 9.01% in 2009. Some of the most prominent conspiracy-oriented websites hyperlinked by our set of misinformation websites include blazetv.com, theabovenetwork.com, and russiafaith.com. We note that authentic news websites, in addition to rarely hyperlinking to our set of conspiracy theory websites, also rarely hyperlink to our set of conspiracy-oriented websites. To further understand how the discussion of each of our conspiracy theories has changed over time, we plot the number of mentions of each conspiracy theory amongst our set of authentic news and misinformation websites. As seen in this graph of the number of mentions of QAnon over time, we observe a somewhat oscillating use of QAnon by misinformation websites throughout our period of study, before it peaked around the January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol. In contrast, we observe that the authentic news websites rarely mentioned QAnon throughout our period of study, but then slowly began writing more and more articles about the phenomenon before the amount of articles peaked around the January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol. Finally, we wish to understand if and how the behavior of our set of misinformation websites and authentic news websites was correlated with the overall popularity of each of our conspiracy theory website groups. To do this, we utilize the notion of partial Granger causality. Granger causality is a means of measuring if one time series is useful for forecasting another. Partial Granger causality allows the additional modeling of latent endogenous and exogenous variables, while also taking into account other measured time series. Specifically, to apply partial Granger causality, we fit vector autoregressive models to determine if the number of 1. Hyperlinks from misinformation websites to a set of conspiracy theory websites are predictive of that conspiracy theory website set's popularity. 2. Mentions of conspiracy theories by authentic news websites are predictive of that conspiracy theory's website set's popularity. Given that we utilize Amazon Alexa rankings as input to model conspiracy theory website groups' popularity, we note that we only apply this methodology for Amazon Alexa rankings after January 2018 due to Amazon Alexa's change in methodology in determining website ranks following that date. To model the general popularity of our group of conspiracy theory websites, we further use a discounted cumulative gain of the collective ranks of each group. This enables us to model all the website ranks within a given group at once. Giving the example of QAnon, we find that misinformation websites hyperlinking to our set of QAnon websites does not partially Granger cause or influence the popularity of our QAnon conspiracy theory websites. However, we do find that authentic news websites mentioning QAnon had a negative partial Granger causality relationship with the popularity of this conspiracy theory group of websites. This illustrates that misinformation websites hyperlinking to our set of QAnon websites was not predictive of the popularity of these QAnon websites, perhaps indicating that some other sources may be driving or limiting the popularity of these websites. Conversely, this also illustrates that as authentic news websites like the New York Times or CNN began to more heavily report and mention the QAnon conspiracy theory, this behavior was negatively correlated with the popularity of the QAnon conspiracy theory. Furthermore, this bolsters reports documented elsewhere that as authentic news outlets reported more heavily on the QAnon conspiracy theory and its negative real-world consequences, social media companies took more aggressive action in curtailing the spread of QAnon online, leading to its declining popularity. We performed similar analyses for our 4 other conspiracy theories in our paper. In conclusion, in this work, we document the interconnectedness of news websites and different domains dedicated to 5 conspiracy theories. We find throughout the past decade that the rate at which misinformation news websites have hyperlinked to these types of conspiracy theory websites has increased substantially, with hyperlinks to conspiracy theory websites going from 9% in 2008 to 13.2% in 2021. Then, using partial Granger causality, we examined the potential role of misinformation in authentic news websites in promoting and increasing the popularity of these types of conspiracy theory websites. Using this methodology, for example, we find that as authentic news websites began to more heavily report on the QAnon conspiracy theory, the overall popularity of these websites dedicated to QAnon decreased. As social media becomes more and more closed to researchers, taking alternative approaches to understanding the rise of conspiracy theories and fringe beliefs that have real-world consequences is imperative. We note that our approach can be utilized to examine how fringe beliefs beyond the 5 conspiracy theories documented in this paper are promoted across media ecosystems. Thank you, and you can find me at the following links.